So, ladies and gentlemen, now it's my task to, together with my two colleagues, left and right, to wrap up this Congress. And in this regard, I have a good and bad news, and I'll tell it both at the same time. It's actually I think it's quite impossible to wrap up this Congress, because it was so full of insights and expertise and loaded with perspectives that it's just impossible to do it within 15 or 20 minutes. But the good news is we'll just skip the wrapping up by actually bringing in just another perspective. This will actually help us to work around this first problem. But in any case, as we conclude this Congress, I want to express my gratitude to all of your valuable contributions and expertise you shared with us throughout the day. It was extremely interesting, and I think together we have certainly gained quite a bit of knowledge and certainly new insights. I also hope that we formed meaningful connections at the end of panels or in the networking breaks or throughout the lunch break, and that we also identified actionable steps that we can take to keep powering through and to keep addressing the challenges we work on every day. And this is really directed to all of us as humanitarian practitioners. Let me just highlight one thing. I think it became clear that there is an increasing need to emphasize the non-negotiable nature of principled humanitarian action, and where the focus actually really needs to remain on the individual and human beings. That also came out in one of the last panels, and that the principles and the humanitarian imperative remain as valid as ever before, if not more. But actually, in helping me properly conclude or bringing a new perspective, it is my pleasure to actually introduce Bianca Ernst and Ronja Berner, left and right of me. Let me start by introducing the two of them. Bianca Ernst is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in non-profit social and healthcare management at the Management Center Innsbruck, MCI, while bringing in a diverse range of experiences, for example, in the police department, but also in the voluntary fire brigade with her, where you served as a group commander. So, thanks for being here. Thank you. For having me. Wonderful. And then Ronja Berner to my right is a master's student at the University of Vienna, actually. Hopefully she will graduate soon in these very premises. And she specializes in development studies with a focus on social protection in crisis and the delivery of cash and in-kind transfers in humanitarian emergencies. And we will also, in just a moment, dig a bit deeper into your master's thesis question, actually. But before we do that, I would actually like to invite you both to look back on today and maybe in just a few sentences or word or impressions, just share with us what touched you most today, what made you happy, kind of, and what surprised you most. You can answer all of those questions or just one and explain a bit deeper. So, thank you.
Okay, I might start. And I don't think it is that complicated to answer all three of these questions. What really touched me was what Mervan said in the first panel, that we really have to focus on local actors and that we also have to empower them. And later Ariane said, also on the same panel, that we also need to keep proximity to the people affected. And I really felt, this is what really touched me today, that this focus on and empowerment of local actors is as important as looking on the people affected and feeling that we are more close to them and that we don't lose sight of them. So this is one main actually goal I'm taking from this Congress today. And at the same time, it really made me happy when Adil earlier said that we need to distinguish justice from altruism, and that global responsibility is that important. So I'm actually really happy that I felt that everybody in this room today is seeing humanitarian aid as a responsibility rather than charity. And I really hope that we can somehow take this out of this room, because I still think that humanitarian aid is quite a bubble in which we might all live, but sometimes we, or I can't speak for my whole generation, but probably many of you students here also feel that sometimes it is really hard to get into or to get closer to the humanitarian field. And although we really want to help and we really feel like doing it, sometimes it is still an untouchable bubble for us. So I hope that also you as humanitarian organizations can take with you today that somehow you don't forget to include us as young experts or just youngsters, probably young students who really would like to engage there, that sometimes you look back on us and say like, oh, we need to still incorporate them in what we are doing.
I think to answer what make me most happy is all of you guys, all of the statements, all of the conversations, your honesty, criticism on all those topics, and that we still have hope that we can live up to these challenges and make the best out of it. I think what I, for myself, take with me is that we are not responsible to tell you as organizations where to spend the money. I think that's a lesson I learned when I was 10 years old. I was in front of the TV and seeing somewhere where a floods affected city. And I said to my father, we should go there and help them. So they are not suffering anymore. And my father looked at me and said, if you go there, that's probably the worst idea ever, because you add more work for them. And I think that's the same. When we tell them what to do with their money, we do the wrong thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ronja, back to you. You already mentioned that you are in the final stages of your master's thesis, and you brought with you a burning question, namely, who ultimately decides what type of aid actually needs to be delivered to those who need humanitarian assistance? And after these 4 panels and different kinds of interventions, what answers did you? Is that questions answered? And what answers did you take away for you?
Yeah, as often, for me there's no answer still. But what I did take away is that it has to be always a joint decision from donors, from us as humanitarian actors, but not only here in the Global North, but also in the Global South. And this is really important. This is really important for me. But also that we take, or that we listen to the people who are affected, because in the end, they are the ones who receive the assistance or who need the assistance. And they are the ones who should also be able to tell us what they are really needing, so that they strive for a better life or for a better situation. And I also, I dare to say that while donors, humanitarian actors, affected population should take part in that decision, I dare to say that this decision shouldn't be a political one. I do understand from today's panels and exactly also from what Brian just said from the World Food Programme that we need political solutions, but I don't think that the decisions in the end should always be political, because I feel that many political actors are not the ones who really focus on the field or on the affected population in the end. So this is something I might dare to say, that it shouldn't be completely political, but rather a decision where we always take into account who needs it, who is exercising and implementing the help, and who has obviously the financial means to implement it.
Thank you. Bianca, with your background as a firefighter, you have also engaged in, or you have gained experience in fighting natural disasters. So you actually also know what it actually means to be on the ground and deal with the consequences of the climate crisis. So in this regard, what did you take away from today? When it comes more to the practical side, probably also looking a bit more deeply into the climate crisis panel, but not restricted to it.
I think what I took with me is that I'm definitely a part of the adoption. So we're fighting if the disaster already hit a city, town, country, whatever. But I think mostly because the most vulnerable population is affected most at natural disasters, exactly this help is the one needed. So we have to help them, we have to create more efficient ways to help maybe earlier in stage so they are not affected that hard. And I think for me, I would like to think of the future as a world where every country is the same, and we just help the country affected no matter what. So there is no difference in all the countries. If it's our neighborhood, like we said earlier, we should think different of the world. Every country is our neighborhood, and we should help everywhere, and everybody should be capable to help wherever nature just strikes and make people need help.
Then probably also you already mentioned or touched a bit upon that, maybe more somehow intergenerational question. I mean, in my brief welcome note in the morning, I mentioned that basically the people in need of humanitarian assistance, or the number of people, actually almost or more than doubled in the last in the last 4 years. And with it, there was urgency increased, and the necessity to act on a bigger scale as well. And I feel that my generations and the generations before me somehow seem to not have managed to live up to the task at hand in a way, even though there were a lot of efforts and initiatives and the situation actually before until the mid 2010s actually didn't look as bad as today. But looking from today into the future, I mean, I think there's certainly hope, and I'm wondering, out of the view from your generation, do you think, or how do you think that your generation will tackle those challenges? Do you think your generation will be more determined to help, or regardless of the circumstances? If you could touch upon this really brief, that would be brilliant.
I'm pretty optimistic that that we can help in the future. I have lots of hope in artificial intelligence, honestly. As Klaus earlier said, we should document numbers and what people need help and where they need help. And I think we can help a lot with artificial intelligence, and it's already starting everywhere in everyday's work. I don't think we're more determined than your generation is. I think we're pretty the same. I just hope we're more effective.
Yeah, actually, I do agree a lot on what you said, Bianca. But I do think that we are more determined in certain aspects. I can't name all of these, but and I can't speak for the whole generation. But I can only speak for my social environment, and there I do feel that they do want to help actually, and they are thriving for it. But sometimes. I know that the challenges we are facing here are completely different from the challenges we were hearing about today. But still, like one person, let's say it's me, a student, getting, for example, governmental support, thinking of how I can help others, sometimes also poses to me the question, okay, if I want to help, then I need to be resilient somehow. I need to be okay, I need to have the means, and this is actually a question I feel that many people in my generation are posing to themselves, like we want to help, but still we don't know how to help, because we are still sometimes also like struggling with little certain aspects. So I think that if one feels resilient enough, we will have a lot of capability to help. And I also... Well, I used to say that actually to my friends, that if you don't feel well, then don't help others. But once you feel well, then get into it. Like start helping others. But first, they also need to see that they are themselves okay, and that also has a lot to do with mental health, for example, what we were touching earlier.
And the last question to both of you, real briefly in one sentence, what inspiration did you take away from today? So what would be the one thing or the one sentence you would tell to your friends, family, co-workers, and so on and so forth?
May I? I'm copying Adil again. I don't know where he's sitting right now. But seeing the world as a country. That was my sentence.
We can face these challenges.
And now, before we close, it's really important. I think we miss one of the vital points of this Congress, and that is that I want to express my sincere thank you to the Congress manager, Monika Stumpf-Hulsreu, for her commitment in organizing this Congress. Bitte, Monika. Vielen Dank für alles. And let me just add, I really have to say, I have seen my share of event organizations in the past. I know there will be more, but I doubt that there's any possibility, or the benchmark is high, to actually do it in a more professional and committed way than Monika. So thanks, really thanks very much. So, and now really the very last words. Thank you for all for being here. It was an extreme pleasure. It was also my first, the 6th Humanitarian Congress was my first Humanitarian Congress in this role, and I tremendously enjoyed it. I now invite all the speakers, the moderators, the panelists, the organizers, and the volunteers that remain to Gasthaus Holunderbusch on the other side of the street. So everyone who was involved, please join us and let's continue the conversations over a drink and a nice a few bites. That will be wonderful. To the rest of you and to all of you, safe travels back home. And I hope to see you again here in 2 years' time for the 7th Humanitarian Congress.